Hello. You might notice I look a little chunkier. Long story short, I got a new camera and it's got a better depth of field. Anyways, this isn't about me, so let's get on with the show. Boneworks, Alyx, both amazing games that defined, to me at least, what a VR game could and should be. But, as with all good things, there must be competition. If I was locked in a room and could only bring one of them, which would I bring? That's what we aim to find out on this episode of YuxaVS. One sec. What do you want?
Hey man, can I come in?
Grene? 1 sec. No, you can't come in.
Why not?
Red,
you look terrible. When was the last time you left the house?
The 21st?
Of June?
Wait, why are you here anyway? You and Yellow live 3 hours away.
I told you I was gonna swing by yesterday. You haven't been reading my messages or picking up my calls.
I was busy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was fun talking, but I think you should probably go.
You're getting sued.
What? A brief recap for those just tuning in. YuxaVS differs from a regular video in that I am actively comparing the games I'm talking about, and there has to be a winner. We've got 6 rounds, but one of these rounds is going to be split into 3 sub-rounds due to how much it can make or break a game. So there's 9 points up for grabs today. Going in order of least important to most important, these are our categories for today. You might notice that gameplay has 3 subcategories. Each of these is worth 1 point. This is because gameplay in a VR game is considerably more important, since if a VR game has confusing or strange gameplay, it'll massively drive down how much I want to play it. So, let's get our headsets on and play some VR games! What? You put me in the bag?
Yes. Indoor voices, please.
Sorry, but you know I hate the bag, it's gross and sticky!
Red, I have washed the bag twice since we last used it. The reason it's gross is because you kept trying to pour apple juice onto the RFID chip in hopes it would make it stop working. The stickiness is entirely your own fault.
Wait, if you put me in the bag, that means... Oh, Grene, how could you? It's so tight-fitting, I hate it!
Oh, please, that suit is tailor-made to fit your exact measurements. You've only got to wear it for a few hours.
How could you do this to me, Grene?
Oh, hi, Yellow. Be glad it's bespoke and not stolen off a dead guy. Look, I'm sure this is all a big misunderstanding, but I'd appreciate it if you tell me what's going on before we're here.
In a VR game, music is not as important as it would be in something like a rhythm game. While it's still an important piece of the puzzle, it's not a big deal if the soundtrack of a game is an absolute fire. Having said that, both parties absolutely killed it. Oh, and before we go on, let me make it clear that I'm not a music expert, so this is entirely based on my own understanding of stuff. If I misuse terms, just correct me in the comments. It'll drive up my engagement too. Starting with halflifealyx. Half-Life always has sort of an industrial thing going on with it, since it's a very dark franchise. If you were looking out on the miserable wasteland the Combiner created, but all you could hear was sunshine and lollipops, it would kind of ruin the atmosphere. Mike Muraski absolutely popped off with the Alyx soundtrack, with music that really pulls you into the shoes of the Half-Life universe. Every song reflects what it's tied to, whether it's the slightly unsettling sounding music that plays when you encounter Zen Flora for the first time, the calm loop that plays when you're trying and most likely failing one of the many hacking minigames, or the absolutely aggro chaos that kicks in during large fight segments. It's ominous. It's foreboding. It's Half-Life. Boneworks is different. Whereas Alyx needs to sell the idea that this is a real world, Boneworks sells the idea of the game within a game. And oh boy, does that free up the music. Tell me, do you like synth? Michael Wyckoff, I probably pronounced that wrong, aka Riot, and Alex Knoll absolutely popped off with this soundtrack, giving us a soundtrack that, for lack of better phrasing, feels like how I imagined driving a car on a sunset road in the 1980s to feel like. Granted, I have no idea what that's like because I wasn't alive in the 80s and I can't drive. But still, the Boneworks OST, like Alyx's OST, fits the style of the game. It's synthy. It sounds almost inhuman, like an alien or otherworldly dimension has abducted me. And in Boneworks, you are truly alone in a world that feels very much like a bizarro imitation of our own. But it's not all 80s calm synths, there's some industrial techno style in here too. Like Alyx, it pulls you into this world, making you feel like a stranger in another world. The games are tied, but I'm giving the edge to Boneworks because of the museum theme. I like the museum theme. Point 1, Boneworks. This is new. Don't worry. Robot law is one of the many areas where I'm practically uncontested. There's not a lawyer in the world who could...
We're here for the trial of Red Yuxa, for the crime of killing an entire city. Please welcome prosecution, Mr. Megabyte.
Thank you, Judge. Let's cut to the chase. Red Yuxa intentionally committed an act of violence, killing many people over some trivial argument. He killed many beloved members of the criminal underworld, like Stretcho, Billy Bathtub, and most painfully of all, beloved mob boss, Godzilla.
You killed Godzilla? Godzilla's a mob boss? How was I supposed to know? Whatever, just... I have a plan. In a VR game, the story kind of takes a backseat. You don't really need a story in a game where you can keep the player entertained for hours by simply letting them pick up a gnome and wobble him around. Story isn't important in a VR game as it would be in something like an RPG. But Boneworks and Alyx still give us some pretty interesting stories to sink our teeth into. Spoilers for both games, by the way. There'll be a time card on screen if you want to skip this bit. Starting with Boneworks this time, Boneworks' story seems discordant. On the surface, it seems simple. You get stuck in virtual reality and have to turn on a giant clock. But things seem off. Slowly, you begin to piece things together. You're an employee of Monogon, the company that made MythOS, but you're actually working for Gammon and you've hacked into the system. But for what? Why does it seem that MythOS is so broken? Void energy. Why does everything seem alive? What the is that? Something is not right in Mythos. Even after you seemingly fix the time tower, things get even worse, with you seemingly entering a whole new game and seeing yourself? The game goes insane so fast you'd think it was a former chess world champion. Alyx is much more cohesive, story-wise. Taking place before the events of Half-Life 2, you play as Alyx, a character we've already seen in Half-Life 2. The game seems to be self-contained for the most part, as you fight through the Combine and Zombie Lake to save your father, Eli Vance. However, after saving him within the first third of the game, the objective shifts to taking down a Combine superweapon, which turns out to be a prison, which turns out to be holding Gordon Freeman. That's not Gordon. That's not Gordon. That's not Gordon. Half-Life Alyx essentially functions as a retcon for the Half-Life franchise, since Episode 2 ended the series in a position they didn't really want to follow up, and also because the entire plot of Episode 3 was leaked online by the original writer in the form of Epistle 3. One advantage that Alyx has over Boneworks is world building. In Boneworks, you're a silent protagonist, but in Alyx, you're very much not. This gives Alyx the edge of simply having more time to world build through dialogue, and the added benefit of a franchise backing it up. Alyx takes this point easily. A little unfair if you think about it, but no one said these were fair. Look, it's true that you did the crime, but you also made sure there were no witnesses, right? Yeah, I killed every single last person there. I even kicked this little blue-haired weirdo kid into... oh no.
I called it a stand, my witnesses!
He burned my weed stash.
He owes me $7!
Mr. Friend, the floor is yours.
How did you even manage to... No clue, alright? My abilities and limits are very ill-defined. Graphics are something that, like story, may take a backseat in VR. You still obviously need some presentation, as everything needs presentation. So which of these games has, okay fine, yes, Alyx is graphically superior by a mile, it's so blatantly obvious, but in the name of a fair trial, I'll still talk about Boneworks. Boneworks is made in Unity, and for a Unity game, this is really impressive. The world feels real, and it is massive. It feels like I'm touring an empty version of that so-called metaverse, but with guns! It's important to say that Boneworks has a fascinating and surreal world that plays into the strengths of it being a video game. Boneworks as a whole takes advantage of the meta nature of its story to create a world that does not need to feel realistic. But at no point during my journey did I stop to say, well, that's unrealistic, because I recognise that that wasn't their intention. Once again, this might be one of the most graphically impressive Unity games, but it's still a Unity game. Alyx. Oh boy, Alyx. Source 2. Ever heard of it? It's like the Source engine, but the second one. And hot damn. Doesn't this look amazing? From the opening shot to the ending sequence, there was almost no time during the game where I found myself unimpressed with the visuals. But I did find myself grossed out. A lot. See, in other Half-Life games, Zen Flora was present, but since it was the early 2000s or late 1990s, you didn't really recognize how gross most of it was. Alyx grabs your face and practically rubs you in the stuff, from hyper-realistic corpses left behind from headcrabs, pulsing, fleshing Zen Flora, to this weird orange stuff for the occasional corpse that's literally been mummified by Zen Flora. Remind me to never get stuck in the Half-Life universe. But this game is so goddamn beautiful that I will happily overlook all the times it made me recoil in disgust. Genuinely, I forgot how good Valve is with their engines. Valve, I beg of you, please don't fall into another 10-year slumber. Every single time you make a Half-Life game, you knock it out the park. Alyx takes another point.
Alright, luckily for you, there's a defense for this exact situation.
Mr. Grene, Mora... Mr. Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert Yuxa, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me Garfield card.
Alright, Grene Yuxa, what is your rebuttal to these accusations?
Your Honor, under Article 2, Chapter 4 of the Bucharest Accords, Red Yuxa cannot legally be held responsible for his actions. Had he been involved in a second citywide genocide, he will be prosecutable for that, but he has not killed on this scale since the incident back in July of 2021.
Well, about that, he did.
Wait, what?
Well, yeah, June 22nd, 2022, he went to Victoria's Secret and killed everyone.
Red?
That's not me. As I've alluded to a few times now, gameplay is the crux of a VR game. As such, for this most crucial of rounds, I have split this round into 3 smaller rounds, each worth 1 point. Gameplay has been split into interface, interaction, and content. So let's start with interface. In a good VR game, a good interface is important. This category is a mixture of user interface and player control. So let's start with Alyx. In Alyx, you have 3 weapons and 1 tool, all bound to your right hand. You switch weapons by pressing in on the thumbstick. In your other hand, you can hold on to items like health, ammo, resin, or Chomsky, my beloved. You can also store 2 items in these weird little wrist pocket things. You can store ammo and resin over your shoulder. You can move with either a thumbstick or teleportation, depending on how motion sick you get. As for user interface, it's all here on your left hand. Resin, health, and ammo are all visible here. It's also very blatantly visible on the desktop version, and there's no way to get rid of it in the recording. Sorry about that. Boneworks takes a wildly different approach to your user interface. You don't have ammo on the screen, you don't have health, you don't have anything that could break the immersion. You find out how much ammo is in a gun when your gun runs out. You find how much health you have when your screen goes red. This may be divisive for some, because some like knowing that stuff, but others appreciate the immersion. But where this game pops off is the way it handles weapons. Since there's a wide variety of weapons, the game allows you to hold 5 objects, 2 heavy objects, 3 light objects. The heavy weapons go over the shoulder and the small weapons go on the waist. And then the third small slot is right up your butthole. No, I'm serious. The butthole pocket. You get a butthole pocket. But on top of that, Boneworks lets you access it via a button. Technology is crazy. However, I find myself constantly grabbing the wrong weapon or grabbing ammo when I want to grab a small weapon, etc, etc. However, despite that, I'm giving this point to Boneworks since it's got a much more immersive weapon storage than Alyx's thumbstick switch. Interaction is the next on this gameplay triple pointer, and it's a VR exclusive thing. In a VR game, how do I interact with the world? It's my world. If I want to grab someone's face and start mushing it in, so help me I will! Boneworks nails this, with the core of the game being physics and, well, your bones. They work. You have a full body. None of this floaty hand BS. You got a full body. It can interact with stuff, it can get caught on stuff, it can give you severe motion sickness. But the fact is that in Boneworks, I can pick up literally anything and use it as a weapon. That's some gold right there. I could beat an enemy to death with a shovel, with a bucket, with a monkey, with my bare hands. I can grab a crablet and just... Durr! 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 Oh, and climbing! You can climb! You can go absolutely ape mode and climb stuff! Alyx is... less. You can grab stuff, and the stuff will even break. But less. You can throw bottles all you want, but the zombies won't die. Alyx and Boneworks have the same interactions, but where Boneworks edges it out is that you can beat things to death. In Alyx, you can't. Worst game ever, 0 out of 10, you can't even climb. Literally 1984. Now, you can have all the mechanics in the world, but what's the point if there's no content to play around with? Then what's the point of the mechanics? Alyx rocks a hefty 11-chapter story, with content throughout. There's metric boatloads of stuff hidden behind secret puzzles in every little nook and cranny of the game, upgradable weapons too, and of course there's the Chomsky achievement. That was a fun week or two. Boneworks has a shorter campaign, but each level is so large and open you can regularly find new places you've never seen before. Boneworks has replay value in the sense that you're always finding new places to go, new weapons to use, new tactics to employ, and these secret little Boneworks crates lock behind really weird and complicated scenarios. This is a toss-up, but in terms of content, Alyx edges out with the power of Chomsky. Ah, snap! A toss-up! It all comes down to the bonus round.
So let me get this straight. The person in this image is not Red Yuxa.
No, Red Yuxa would never wear a suit willingly. He'd rip it off the second he was out of my supervision.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, just look at the way I was fidgeting over there. Dumb idiot.
Objection! It could have been Blue Yuxa.
Wrong again. Blue's been gone since November.
What?
Yeah, I got shot in the head and they left.
Besides, Blue would never go into a Victoria's Secret. They're much too self-conscious about their gender identity for that.
What?
I think we need more evidence.
Alright, to prove that Red could not have been there, I took the liberty of swiping his keycard to his apartment, and the last time he left the house was January 21st.
Alright then, I guess it's time for the verdict.
Alright, it all comes down to this. And by the way, if you're still watching, you should probably subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, hit a small orphan child, the works. So let's pick at a bunch of random threads to see which game could pull that elusive final point. Lightning round. Mods. Both games have mod support, but Alyx edges out Boneworks. Not in content, but in support. Thanks, Steam Workshop. Gimmicks. VR games tend to have gimmicks. However, Alyx doesn't really have a gimmick, and Boneworks' gimmick is climbing. Climbing is awesome. Boneworks takes this round. Animation! The downside of physics-based animation is on full display in Boneworks, with enemies walking and stumbling like they're weird little puppets. It's charming, but I prefer Alyx's more grounded style. Bonus content! Alyx has none. Boneworks got consistent updates for a year or so. Sound. Both games have really good sound design, but Alyx takes this crown, mainly because Valve's have more experience in this area, plus the Boneworks guys' noises really wind me up. And finally, the most important factor of any game, character customization! Neither of them have it. But in Alyx you can wear a hard hat and a respirator throughout the campaign. Alyx takes this, which means Alyx wins 4-3 with the power of funny hats! Was this unfair? Pitting a game from like 20 people against Valve's greatest game since Portal 2? Yeah. But hey, it's not my fault I started writing this script right before Bone Labs was announced. Tell you what, I'll do a rematch in like 2 to 3 years, right before they release Alyx 2 or whatever's next for the Steam VR.
Well, it would appear that Grandma has fought a valiant case for Red Yuxa's innocence, I guess.
Wait, Your Honor! One last question. What does Yuxaredd think of Garfield card?
Objection. This is an unrelated question.
I'll allow it. However, we can already guess, seeing as Garfield card is already the greatest game ever made.
Truly the best card racer.
Much better than Mod Nation Races.
Garfield Kart is a Unity stink piece, and the only people who enjoy it are saddos in their parents' basement who are either terminally unfunny or terminally online. Most of the time, both! Uh-oh.
You're a Garfield card critic. Guilty. Death.
Well then. Plan B.
For the last 5 months, I have been trapped in my own mind. The worst part is that I've had Story of Undertale on the loop. Unable to pause it. Well, guess what, world? I'm homicidal and I've got
Order in the court, goddamn.
Well, that's my cue to go. I gotta do worse.
Grene, should we run? He's our brother, not a complete maniac. I think. Oh, man. Does anyone going to jail? Nah, that was a criminal court.
to rip your head off.
Wait, isn't he over 5 years old and therefore prosecutable for any crimes he commits? Well, there's a little loophole, actually. How's it work?
No witnesses.
Huh. Hey, I guess everything really wraps up neatly in a bow. No, it really doesn't. What's that supposed to mean? Red, we have reason to believe the Chrome is back. We don't know why, how, or where, and I know for a fact it's not the one in your apartment, since that dude's deader than a 360 in warm rooms. And you know the worst part? That's not even the thing that worried me the most.
Hey, can you guys take me back to the car? Okay, thanks. Good night.
This isn't over.
You can quit playing possum now.
Oh, it was getting tiring anyway. So, diagnostics, review.
Data came through fine. Any notes on the body?
The screen face is cool, but having LEDs on the entire body results in my overall temperature being way higher than it should be. It made it very hard to dodge Yellow's attacks, of all the Yuxes.
Ah, sorry. SC wanted to try some new things. I'll make note of that.
Huh. I must say though, even if we didn't...
We've managed to massively erode Grene's trust in Red, and we've learned that Blue isn't with them, so he's out there somewhere.
Oh, I'll make a note of that too. Can you still reach the ejector port, or...
Nope. This suit is way too tight, and I'm way too low on power.
Alright. I'll do it.
Wait, no, let me safely power off!
Oh. Oops.